Hi, we're feeder fishing today on a river and I'm hoping to show you how to catch some cracking fish, just like this superb chub. My name's James Robbins. I'm Product Development Manager for Shakespeare and also a member of the Shakespeare Super Team. I've brought you down to the River Wye today, just downstream of Hereford at a stretch called Bartisham. It's day ticket water and tickets are available from Woody's Tackle Shop in Hereford. The river is absolutely perfect for the method I want to talk to you about today, which is feeder fishing. There's around about a foot on. We had some rain yesterday, so the river might come up a little bit during the day, and there's a tinge of colour. So I'm hoping that we're going to be able to catch some nice chub and maybe some barbel as well on the feeder. There's two styles of feeder fishing that I'm going to take you through. One's the more traditional block end feeder using maggots, hemp or casters. The other's a pellet feeder, a ground bait feeder using pellets on the hook or small boilies or maybe meat and worms. So two different approaches that are extremely effective for this style of fishing. During the video I'm going to show you the tackle that I use to approach this kind of swim and also a few tips relating to this style of fishing. Let's give it a go. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the rods and reels suitable for feeder fishing on a river such as the Wye. I've actually set two rods up. The rod that I've got the block end feeder on is a Shakespeare Mach 1 X2 power feeder. Now this particular version's 12 foot. We also do a 13 and a 14 foot as well in the range. They're extremely competitively priced. They're absolutely fantastic for this style of fishing. As the name suggests, they are powerful, but they have got a nice action. They're not just a stiff poker. There's a good soft tip and then the tip blends through nicely into the middle section. The rod's supplied with three separate tips, all carbon in this case, a 3, a 2 and a 1.5 ounce. Now I'm actually using the 2 ounce carbon tip today because, as I said, there's about a foot on, the river's not too powerful and I still want to keep some sensitivity in the tip. The reel is a Mach 3 XT in the 040 size. Now again, there's various different sizes of this reel and both options are front drag and rear drag. Now that's clearly the front drag. I prefer front drag reels when I'm fishing with a heavy feeder setup like this because the reel's extremely powerful but the drag system's extremely smooth. This reel comes supplied with 11 bearings. It's got 3 spare aluminium spools supplied with it and a double and a single handle. And as you can see, I'm using a double handle today. So that's the Mach 3 XT 040 size reel. Now the other setup I've gone for on my ground bait feeder rig is the 14 foot version of the Mach 1 XT. Now the 14 foot rod's quite a specialised rod for the UK, but it proves extremely useful on rivers such as this. The extra length can help keep the line out the water when the river's up, and also the extra length helps with casting a greater distance, and if you've got a confined peg where it's difficult to cast, the extra couple of feet really does make a difference. But it's the same story with the action. It's a powerful rod in the butt and the middle section, but it blends nicely into the top and the tip. These rods retail at $64.99. whereas the 12 foot version I talked about earlier retails at $49.99. Again, supplied with 3 tips, and in this case I'm using the 3 ounce carbon tip to complement the heavier setup. Now the reel here is a Mach 2 XT, again in the 040 size, and as you can see, a rear drag. I'll set that up just to show the comparison. In that the Mach 2s are supplied with rear drag and front drag options, supplied with 2 aluminium spools and also a double and a single handle. So now I'm going to take you through a bit more of the detail relating to the actual rigs and baits that we're going to use today on the River Wye. So a bit of detail relating to the rigs and line that I'm using today. On both the block end and the ground bait feeder I'm using a semi-fixed bolt rig like this, which is a swivel running up and down the line between 2 plastic grip stops. On the block end feeder rig I'm using 8 pound trilene big game straight through to diameter 18 XWR line, which has a breaking strain of 7.5 pounds. The feeders I'm using are Camasan black caps, and I've got various different sizes and weights to allow me to cater for different conditions and on different rivers. A really key thing is that you need to have plenty of additional clip-on weights so you can adjust the feeder so that it perfectly balances to the conditions that you're facing. The hook I'm using on the maggot rig is a size 14 Drennan carbon feeder. Now on the ground bait feeder rig, I've actually increased the mainline breaking strain up to 10 pound big game, and I've also increased the hook length material to diameter 20 XWR. I'm using a hair rig, and I'm using a size 14 Drennan star point hook with a fairly short hair, but long enough for me to be able to use different baits such as boilies, pellets, meat, whatever. One small but very important point I'd like to emphasise about the rig I'm using today for feeder fishing on a river is the fact that it's a variation on the loop method used by many anglers. The swivel actually runs up and down on top of the loop. It's not actually incorporated in the loop. So if I were to snag up or crack off during cast, if a fish took the bait or was tied up or tethered, it'd be able to free itself by pulling the rubber stops off the loop. You'll also benefit, however, from having a semi-bolt effect, so the fish effectively hook themselves. So that concludes the rigs that I'm using today. Very simple but extremely effective. Now I'm going to take you through the baits that I'm going to be using today. For the maggot feeder, couldn't be any simpler really. I've got 5 or 6 pints of bronze maggots with a few reds. Bronze maggots are such a traditional bait on a river such as this, fishing for chub and barbel, and the addition of the reds gives you a fantastic change bait. Some days you can be catching on bronze maggot, it go quiet, switch to red and you have a sudden burst of fish. So it's always advisable to mix reds in with a few of the bronze. On the ground bait feeder, I'm obviously basing my approach on a ground bait mix, which in this case is Census pellet power mixed with some crushed hemp. And what I like to do is make a bit of a concoction up for my ground bait mix, which involves mixing the hemp in, some 4mm Census halibut pellets, and also some larger 8mm ellipse halibut pellets. Mix it all together so you've got a very rich and diverse mix that's going to enable different flavours and particles to disperse and settle in your peg. For hook baits on the ground bait feeder, I've also got a selection of different baits to try, ranging from 10mm Census probiotic boilies to some 8mm ellipse pellets that I discussed, and also some 14mm halibut pellets. I'm also always keen to try different baits. If it goes quiet, I want to try something else just to see if I can sneak an extra fish, and I just simply wouldn't go fishing on a river without good old luncheon meat and the trusty lobworms. So many times I've been fishing on the river, it's gone quiet on the normal baits, I've switched to a bigger bait and bang, I've had a bonus fish. So I think that concludes the baits, and I'm going to now move on to some tactics that will hopefully help improve your catch rate when you're fishing on the rivers. So join me in part 2 of river fishing on the feeder.